Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel Complicated Relationships, the Reddit story channel. Hope you guys are feeling great and it's time for today's story. I'm pregnant with a fair partner's baby but want my husband to be the father. My name is Dee and I made the mistake of my life and wanted to share my story. My husband was 28 years old and I was 25 at the time of this incident. We've been married for 1 year and have been together for almost 3. My spouse is a fantastic, loving husband, a hard worker, and an excellent provider. I have always dreamed of this man. About a year into our marriage, my husband was working on a construction project that required him to be out of town for 3 weeks, including 2 weekends. During that time, we FaceTimed daily and sent multiple texts to each other as we both missed each other terribly. On the first weekend my husband was away, 2 of my single girlfriends asked me to join them at a local club. I told them I didn't want to go, but they kept pushing me, saying they wanted me to be the designated driver as they planned to get drunk. I eventually relented but did not tell my husband or my mother and older sister as they would have been dead set against me. We arrived at the club about 10:30 p.m. and things were already in high gear with people dancing and drinking. My friends immediately joined in the fun and I stayed on the sidelines at a round high top table just watching them and the others dancing. My friends brought their dance partners back to the table to rest and talk. While there, another man, let's call him Joe, joined us for a conversation. Joe was a friend of one of the guys at the table. When my friends and their dance partners got up to go back on the floor, Joe stayed at the table with me and we began to talk. My girlfriends got what I would call sloppy drunk that night and made real spectacles of themselves at the club. Joe had to help me get them to my car and offered to ride with me to their homes to assist me in dropping them off. He had come to the club with his friends, so I told him that I would drop him off at his place after I dropped off my friends. I then drove Joe back to his apartment and he invited me up to continue talking as friends. I told him I didn't want to since I was happily married, but he said, "Come on, just another 15 minutes." I said, "Okay, just 15 minutes." I knew it was wrong and I knew what would happen, but still I agreed. When we got upstairs, we got sparkling water and sat on his couch talking. After just several minutes of talking, Joe kissed me gently on the lips and things progressed quickly from there to where we were making love. 5 minutes later, after we finished, I quickly realized what I had done and I told Joe I could never see or talk to him again, that I was happily married and I felt terrible. He said he understood and he said he was regretful as well. We didn't exchange numbers, contact information, or last names. We live in Los Angeles, about 20 miles apart now. I thought I could get away with this one-time slip-up, but I was wrong. Several days later, I was due for my period and it never came. Then a week went by, then 2 weeks, and still no period. My husband came home and we quickly resumed where we left off, madly in love with each other, but I was harboring this dark secret. I knew if I was pregnant, the baby was Joe's, as he did not wear protection and my husband has always worn protection since we've been together. The next day I went to the drugstore and picked up a home pregnancy test and my worst fears came true. I was pregnant with Joe's baby. I was distraught and sickened and had to tell someone about my situation, so I scheduled a meeting with my mum and sister to tell them what happened and to get their advice. When I explained to my mum and sister what happened, they were thoroughly disgusted and angry with me. They both loved my husband and couldn't believe I would do such a thing. I knew this. I knew from this point forward I would be an outcast. Even though we are Catholic, I told them I wanted to terminate it as I could not risk losing my husband. I planned to do it the next time my husband went out of town, not tell him anything and just go on with our relationship like nothing happened. My mother and sister said they could not and would not allow me to do this. They said I must be truthful with my husband and if I don't tell him within the next 24 hours, they will meet with him and tell him the truth. They also said that I shouldn't do the termination as it is morally wrong and would be something I'd regret for the rest of my life. I knew that they were right and asked that they join me when I told my husband, as I needed their support, and they agreed. We all met at our apartment the next day and we were waiting for my husband. When he came through the door, when he entered, he said, "Hey, it's my three favorite ladies. Great to see you all." He then kissed me and hugged my mum and sister. This made tears well up in my eyes. He saw my tears and the sober look on our faces and said, "What's wrong? What happened? Is everything okay?" I told him I had something to tell him and that he needed to sit down. He said okay, and with that he sat facing me on the couch and held both my hands. Then I told him. He didn't react with anger, instead released my hands, stood up and walked over to the stools in our kitchen counter. My mum and sister were crying as I pleaded with all of them, saying all the normal stuff that people say after they cheat, like "I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, I'd do anything for you," etc., etc. I wanted him to yell, call me nasty names, and ask for details of the affair, but instead he said absolutely nothing, which made me feel even worse. Throughout my ramblings, he said nothing, just looking down at the floor with tears streaming down his cheeks. My mum and sister got up and hugged him, and they all were sobbing. I felt horrible and disgusted with myself. After he took a minute to compose himself, he went into the bathroom, splashed water on his face, toweled off, and came back into the living room. As he returned to the seating area, I stood up to embrace him and he held up both his palms and just said no. He then calmly said he needed to get away and think about things for a few days. I continued to try to get him to open up, but instead he said nothing. I asked where he was going and he said he would be in touch. Throughout the next week, I bombarded his phone with voicemail messages and texts stating how sorry I was and that I wanted him to be the father of my child. He never responded. Instead, 1 week later, I got a call from his attorney stating that my husband was filing for divorce. I was devastated and went to my mother and sister for support. My mom and sister comforted me and said they would both help me through this situation and my pregnancy, but made it clear they were not at all happy with me and were supportive of my husband. They went on to say they would testify on his behalf at the trial if I contested the divorce. For the next 2 weeks, I continued to call and text my husband, professing my love and begging him to see me face to face just one more time. He never responded and instead sent a message to me through his attorney saying that he wished me and my baby well, but that he needed to move on with his life without me. I was completely crushed and fell into a deep depression. About 2 months later, we were all in court for the hearing. I was seeing my husband for the first time since he left. I immediately began to cry uncontrollably and tried running to greet him, but my mom and sister held me back and consoled me. Since I didn't contest the divorce and we had few assets, the hearing was quick. As we left, I again wanted to run and speak to my husband, but his attorney took him out of a side entrance and into a meeting room to keep him away from me. Fast forward 2 years and I've been living with my mom and dad and have a beautiful baby girl. My mom, sister and dad have been great and I couldn't have gotten through this ordeal without them. I recently started a part-time job at the local library as a clerk and plan to go full-time there once my child was old enough for school. My ex-husband moved on with his life and has a new girlfriend and is very happy. She is beautiful, young and from a great family. I'm happy for him, but I'm also sad. My daughter brings me great joy and I love my family. However, I have a huge hole in my heart from the loss of my wonderful husband. After the divorce, I connected with Joe and advised him about my pregnancy. We had an NIPT, that's a non-invasive pregnancy test, completed which showed him to be the father. He agreed to child support and has not missed a single payment since. I have no attraction to him romantically though, and hate him for disrupting my beautiful life, even though it was me who was 100% responsible for the cheating. About a week ago, I ran into my ex-husband at Walmart. As I turned the corner of one of the aisles with my daughter in the cart, I came face to face with him. I completely lost my breath. He said, "Hello, Dee, how are you?" I awkwardly said I was okay. My daughter smiled and reached out to him, mumbling a few words and showing him her toy. He said, "Hello there, beautiful girl, how are you?" I was so saddened by seeing him and my daughter meeting face to face, and tears quickly came to my eyes. I so wanted him to be my child's father, but I knew that was never going to happen. With that, he said, "Best of luck to you, Dee, and your beautiful baby girl. You take care now." He then walked directly to the self-scan area to check out, and I stood and watched him walk away one last time. I had the closure I needed, even though it was not what I wanted. I share this story to hopefully prevent people, both women and men, from repeating my terrible life-altering mistake. If I can help just one person, then that would be a blessing. Thank you all for listening, and best of luck to you in your relationships. And with that, we conclude today's video. Now it's your turn to let us know what you think about the story in the comment section below. Please do like and share the story with your friends. Also subscribe to the channel if you are not already. And I'll see you again with another great video. Until then, stay safe.